Yes, very good astromania, dear, because cleaning lenses, mirrors, all the optics of astronomical instruments is very important, not only for visuals, but for astrophotography. In fact, especially for astrophotography, that's why we do flash, etc. But sometimes even flashes don't resolve when the dirt is too much. So that can also affect the optics, can create fungus, etc., etc. So it is always good to have our optical system well cleaned, not only for better image quality, but also to take care of the optics themselves. So today I'm going to explain how to clean the meniscus, this entry lens of this mica segurine, of any mica segurine, this type of lenses. Of course, it is suitable for other types of lenses. I do not recommend them for mirrors. I'm going to make another video explaining how to clean mirrors, because remember that it has an aluminized layer, etc. So it's not exactly the same, but I'm going to show you how to clean this lens. It's pretty dirty. I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to explain how to do the cleaning. Well, as you can see, it's pretty dirty here. Not only dust particles, pollen, etc., but it also has several fingers. It turns out that I recently disassembled it to collimate the secondary mirror, that is, clean the secondary mirror and collimate it afterwards. And as you can see, well, a disaster, not of. I stuck his fingers wherever he wanted these fingerprints, and then we have fat, not fingers. In other words, we are going to clean not only the dust, the pollen that has a specific technique, but also this grease from our fingers, etc. You always have to be very careful with this. Now, in this case, it also has fingerprints on the inside. I mean, if the inside is clean, they haven't opened it at all, they haven't had to manipulate it, it was simply on the outside, so they wouldn't run the risk of it being damaged, etc. The meniscus, but since in this case it is inside and outside, the technique is essentially the same. But if it is not necessary, if we are sure that the inside is very clean, then it is not necessary to remove the meniscus, and thus we do not run the risk of any damage. In this case, I'm going to remove it because I need to clean it on both surfaces. Well, first I would clean the work area well, or use this table. So we can use, for example, these snapsing, these napkins, any paper of, yes, something that is clean. Clean well here, make sure there is no dust, that it is dry. Of course, we must also clean everything well. So that the surface, if we have a special paper, let's say a roll of paper or something, well, we put it here. The idea is to make sure everything is clean and dry. Well, what materials are we going to use? We are going to use distilled water. Be careful, because some places sell spring water. Theoretically, it's not distilled water, it's spring water, spring cure, etc. But it's not distilled from Star Wars. Distilled water, we're going to use isopropylic alcohol. In this case, it's 70%. If it's stronger, 90% or something like that, I recommend lowering it a little with water, so as not to run the risk of removing this film that has the optical surfaces. No. This 70% polysopropylic cotton wipes are 100% cotton. Always make sure that it is sealed, that we have not used it, that it is not opened, that it has caught a pole, etc. Is new, make sure it has no impurities. We have these special papers that are for optical papers. This brand, I don't know if there is another one, is the one I have always seen, Kintec, because buying this is quite cheap. They are not expensive. Do not be confused with tissues. For example, the paper I use to clean the table, that doesn't work, that has First, it can scratch the loosest lens paper particles that are then acquired to the surface. So it's not this special roll, and then here I have this, I know I bought this. If you don't have this, it is not essential, but it is very practical. It is a kind of brush, a brush to remove coarse grains due to dust particles, etc. This here to remove the fat, but hey, don't use it. What you can use is the brush to remove dust specks, coarse grains, pollen, etc. We're going to put it in the back so it doesn't get contaminated, and this pipette, the knob to remove those dust particles, pollen, etc. Then let's see, Daddy. Special optical paper, 100% cotton, and that the grain that is sealed the same with everything else, not the water, of course, was styled that no one has already taken from it, that it has not been pestered, that the alcohol is not open, just like it has not been used for other things, that the paper has been contaminated. Of course, once it is opened, be careful not to put it in a place with dust, because later we are going to use it again. Well, we run the risk that then at least those who are out here will have dust, and we will always miss everything very clean. The brush, of course, do not leave this brush anywhere. Well, close it once we finish. Then let's see how to do the cleaning. Well, before continuing, I want to remind you that if you have not subscribed to the channel, then subscribe. If you are interested in this type of content that we do here at Astromania, Seca de Astronomia, makes silent on instruments, astrophotography techniques, and so on, then subscribe. If you find this video interesting, give a like and thus help you view the channel and click on the bell so that you don't miss new videos above all. Many times, because I make live videos of phenomena that are occurring at that precise moment, and well, I went to La Panita so that they don't miss it live. And very importantly, we already have our merchandise on the channel. We already have this cap. For example, with the Astromania logo, we have caps, we have polo shirts with it, with the logo, the name of the channel, we have jugs, we have various other things, backpacks, handbags, etc., etc., and it keeps growing. So those interested in buying any of these products with the logo, with the name of the channel, since it is already available on the main page of the channel, also in our videos, because there is the link to buy these products, and so those interested in having a, let's say, a souvenir from the channel, well, it's available now. So we will always remove the mirror very carefully. Also, I'm saying it, you have to put it up, not necessarily completely vertical, but at more than enough angle to make sure that it doesn't, that it's not going to fall. If not 45 degrees, etc. Well, it doesn't have to be, but it doesn't have to be exactly upwards if it's difficult to see. Let's say the screws, if they are very high, they can tilt it a little, but not too much. Then we are going to remove the screws. I repeat, being very careful not to drop the mirror, trying not to touch the sorry, not to drop the lens, trying not to touch it. But hey, how we are going to clean it is not too critical in this case. But hey, we don't want to add more impurities to the meniscus. We have the meniscus. I repeat, be very careful. Don't let it fall. Then we are going to put the table to clean it. Well, we have the meniscus here, and of course it has this support for the secondary mirror that will serve us to support on the surface that we use without the meniscus touching the surface. I'm going to say it's not necessary, or let's say it's a good idea. It's not essential. But for greater cleaning security, I am going to put a sealing, one of these papers. These are not the optical papers. You don't need to use an optical paper. We're not going to spend it on this to support here, always making sure it doesn't touch the meniscus. If it's too much of a problem, well, no, you don't really need to use it. I prefer as long as the surface is well clean. Well, it's not necessary, but I prefer, well, put it like this, and we're going to start cleaning. Well, the first thing would be to use this brush to always remove carefully. Do not touch the menis with glasses with our hands then. We are removing any dust particles quite gently. These are not special fibers either, but so on, because the less we press, the better. Sure, come on, I repeat, if you don't have this special brush, of course, don't use another regular brush or one brush. This is special fiber, so it won't scratch the lens. We do it on both sides. In fact, it's best not to talk. I have no choice. I'm explaining saliva particles or something can fall on the lens or case. Not, no, it's just that it's a great fix, but it can happen. So we make sure that we look, if we see any particles, we look against the backlight, yes, towards the light, not to be able to see well. Then once we make sure that we remove the grains, coarser dust particles, etc. We keep it here in this protection so that it does not get dirty. I repeat this part to remove grease stains. Or I'm going to withdraw, etc. I'm going to use another technique. I'm going to use this normally. Also, of course, it is for removing large particles. If you don't have the brush, you can just use this, but with both, it's better. Of course, I don't know, any of this is made for this, but it can be, let's say, we opened it on a web, something that's a little too thick. We don't want to scratch, say an air compressor, something like that is too powerful, or we want to scratch. Any particle of dust that is dispatched with too much force, because of course, what seduces cannot have impurities inside either. An air compressor might have dust, something like that, then it would be worse the remedy than the disease. So Harpito, if you don't have the brush, well, this is enough, or at least it's with the ending, it's better, but is it enough with this? So once we remove the coarser particles, we're going to take cotton. I whistle this 100% cotton house and we're going to clean it up. Now, how important? Can someone tell me what's missing here? I taught all the materials. Any material missing? All right. Well, yes, a polyethylene glove is missing. One of these rubber gloves to prevent our fingerprints from touching again. And even if we try sometimes, well, we get some fingerprints and we go back to O or the cotton itself. We touch the cotton, we start to rotate the cotton and we transmit that grease to the cotton and we transmit it to the We are going to use normal gloves, these rubber gloves, not to do the rest of the cleaning. For the first part, it is not so necessary because can you use it at first just so you don't take the risk? No, but I don't like to use the first part because when we remove the large particles, they can adhere to our fingers and then we transmit it to the cotton, etc. But they're delicacies. Now in this part, we are going to be touching the meniscus closer. Well, yes, I recommend wearing Goa gloves so that the fat on our skin does not get on the meniscus. And now, yes, we are ready to begin the second stage of cleaning. Once removed, I repeat, the coarser particles, we are going to use 100% cotton gauze and we are going to use isopropyl alcohol. This 70% is not extremely aggressive, let's say, so we don't run the risk of damaging the film. Optics, not that of the lens. Then we are going to usually do it from the center outward so that if any dust particles remain, then move it away from the center. That is, it will make the edge and it can be eliminated. Now, I recommend if we are going to clean the two interior-exterior surfaces, I recommend cleaning one of them first, in this case the outside, and then continuing with the inside so that the alcohol does not dry out quite quickly. It is one of the reasons why we use alcohol once. That's usually enough. I'm going to go twice so it doesn't get too wet. We don't want the alcohol to drip into this part of the center of the mirror, which is moisture. Although the alcohol dries quickly, it is humidity, since being harmful does not stop in this case for the secondary mirror, throwing fungi, etc. So not too much. Let's say that the cotton drips. They are, let's say, for some delicacies, but it is always better because by excess, not precaution, than by default. So we do like this. Now we use, I repeat, you can do it on the inside and then move towards using water. I'm going to clean, I repeat, the part. In this outer case, first use distilled water. You can rotate the cotton to use the dry part, etc. And with that schedule, I would save cotton. I don't think it's a priority. The priority is to make sure that the lens is completely clean, so I'm not going to rotate it to avoid it. Run the risk that some impurities on the glove or something will fall at that time. Once we make water, now we take no more liquid of any type or water and nothing, and we are going to begin to dry the most evident moisture first with the cotton, and then we finish with this is special optical paper to give the final finish, trying not to touch it, even if we have gloves, because it is always better if we do not touch the meniscus with the gloves, although it is important to use gloves that do not have dust. Are there gloves that have dust on them? Well, that doesn't suit us because we're going to yes, we won't do anything, not the dust, if we touch the meniscus, because it would hurt the mirror and or the lens in this case. And we won't do anything, only then polyethylene gloves that they don't have, then it's already pretty dry. We're going to use the special paper to do the final drying. It's always important to make sure it's dry. Because humidity is one of the worst enemies of optical systems, whether slow mirror, fungi are quite harmful and non-persistent. So now we can give it rotations since it's either sideways or we can continue moving from the center outward. Always, I repeat, whether with this special brush, whether with cotton or with this optical paper, do not press too much. Although this is made not to scratch so as not to damage the optical surface, nothing guarantees us 100%. Nor does it guarantee us that there are some small impurities, whether they come from the factory or from opening the container where they come. Well, dust has settled, so don't press it too much. We make sure it is dry and then we do the same procedure, I repeat, taking care not to touch the already clean surface, even if the glove, well, no, does not have grease, etc. But it's always good to take care of this, and we do the same thing again, alcohol. With the cotton, then distilled water with the cotton. We dry with cotton a little and finish drying with optical paper. Well, ready, the mirror is now clean. It is important, I repeat, to dry the entire mirror well so that there is no moisture left so that fungi do not form later. But above all, and if we remove the mirror, the most important thing is that both surfaces remain very dry, but especially the interior, because once we seal the sneaker, it turns green as it is closed. It is sealed. Well, this interior humidity persists longer than the exterior and is, of course, more harmful. Then we are going to proceed to put the meniscus again. Now, it's important, as I explained when I showed how to put this anti-dew ring on. Let us put the screws in an alternative way, that is, we tighten a little, then the opposite, then this opposite, not tightening it completely until the end, simply adjusting it a little. This is so that the mirror is not sent to us. And of course, since we just cleaned up, it's important to be careful not to touch the mirror, even if it is with these gloves. We will try not to touch the mirror, the meniscus, the lens in this case, which once we all put on or adjust it a little, we adapt a little more. Great pressure is not necessary. It is not, in fact, convenient because we can bend the meniscus, just make sure it is tight. Well, that's it. There are other ways to clean. There are even special liquids, etc. This is simply a way, let's say, quite practical without too many materials. Perhaps some like the brush is special, or let's say optical paper that, well, yes, in this case it is very important. Does it take advantage of the essentials or what? Some variations, which is always very important, because everything is very clean, and do not use materials that we are not safe that can be used. Do not use any type of fabric, any type of paper. Any water that is not distilled, that is, always be very careful with the materials we are going to use. We have to be sure that they are certified, or at least distilled water, for example, is not specially made for cleaning lenses. It is simply water that is sold in supermarkets. But look for information about what is the suitable material for it, because any bad procedure, we can scratch with permanent marks in optics, whether on lenses like these or on mirrors. So it is important to know how to clean the lenses before doing this, because once the optics deteriorate, there is not much more to do, right? So that's it for now. I hope it was useful. It's always good to keep the optics clean, not just for quality, visual or photographic, but also to preserve so that our optics have longer useful life. Thank you very much until a next video on Astromania, and thank you for being here on the channel again.